I've long said that a fire incident where there are multiple companies working, not a multi-alarm incident, just a single alarm incident with multiple companies working, say 2 engines, a ladder, and a medic, and you've got 15 or 20 people working, that the capacity to manage all that exceeds the ability of one individual. Every day, the hard-working men and women at Midwest Fire build the most reliable firefighting apparatus to be found anywhere. Their customers know a well-built fire engine means lives and property saved. Midwest Fire, a factory direct manufacturer dedicated to helping you extinguish fire before it becomes a raging beast. To learn more about what fuels their passion, visit MidwestFire.com. Hello and welcome to the Situational Awareness Matters Show, episode 326. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SA Matters mission is simple. We want to help you see the bad things coming in time to prevent bad outcomes. Today's feature segment is sponsored by our new online training platform, Gassaway Virtual Training. We now have 33 online training programs for your members. Some of these programs are live events that are presented virtually, and some of them are pre-recorded programs. To learn more, visit samatters.com website and click on the Virtual Training tab. All right, let's jump into today's feature segment, a discussion to offer incident commanders best practices for developing and maintaining strong situational awareness. Perhaps one of the greatest compliments from the live event situational awareness presentations I've delivered over the past 16 years is framed around the number of high-quality, immediately actionable best practices that are offered to attendees. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that everyone runs home and implements every one of them. In fact, unless the attendees are prodigious note takers, I doubt that they even remember most of them by the end of the day. Which is why I always offer them a PDF handout of the program to attendees as a way of adding value and a way to provide them with a checklist of sorts of the best practices. In this episode, I want to share with you some of those best practices and some of the context or backstory, as you will, for how the things we're going to talk about today made the best practice list. All right, let's get started. Here are 12 situational awareness best practices. Number 1, avoid premature decision making. When we're responding to a call, we get information from dispatch that indicates for us the type of emergency that we're responding to. That information from dispatch then paints a picture in our mind of the call that we're responding to. And that picture can be so vivid and so realistic that we believe it to be truthful and accurate. But the truth of the matter is, it's neither truthful nor accurate because it is nothing more than an imagined reality of what we think that scene or that picture should look like based on information that was shared with us by the dispatcher. The more information they share, the more data points there are, the more accurate the picture is believed to be, which then can cause a company officer to provide instructions to their crews about what they are to do once they get on the scene, based on that officer's understanding of the call that they're responding to. But oftentimes, the reality of the incident is not what was in the mind of the responder while on the way to the scene. So avoiding premature decision-making means to avoid making decisions and assigning activities to crew members until you arrive and actually understand the problem. Number 1 then ties to number 2. Complete a 360 size up. A 360 size up is your first opportunity to to gather true and factual information about what is happening at the incident scene. And the lack of completing a 360 size up is one of the leading contributing factors to near misses and casualties and line of duty deaths. We know we're supposed to do it, we're taught we're supposed to do it, but when we get on the scene of an emergency, the stress, the speed at which conditions are changing, priorities can cause us to overlook or even to downplay or diminish the need to complete a 360 size up. Sometimes responders will say to me when I'm interviewing them, "Rich, I didn't have time to complete a 360 size up. The fire was moving too intensely for me to waste that time." When I hear that kind of hits me in the feels to have them say that, because what they're saying in essence is, I don't have time to form situational awareness. I don't have time to gather intel that helps me to form understanding, that helps me to make predictions that could save my life. I don't have time to do all that. In reality, the size up is not a waste of time, but rather an investment in the activities that lead to better decision-making outcomes. Number 3, prioritize the incoming information. Under stress, volumes of information are not your friend, they're your enemy. And it is easy to get hung up in trying to gather all the intel that you possibly can about what is happening in order to make a good decision. And this can be problematic because we can only take in, process, comprehend, and remember about 7 pieces of unrelated information in our short-term memory buffer. But that number is not exactly accurate for people under stress. As they have conducted the experiments of short-term memory capacity under stress, what they find is stress causes the average to be down to 3 to 5 pieces of unrelated information that a person can hold in their short-term memory buffer. So as you arrive on the scene and you're trying to capture and process too much information, your brain literally won't be able to do it, and it can get to the point where it shuts down your ability to make a decision. You can experience analysis paralysis and not be able to make a decision at all. You're kind of like frozen in place, and under the belief then that you even need more information. But the truth of the matter is you can't even put the puzzle pieces together of the information that you have already. So let me give you an example of how to prioritize the incoming information. Let's just take, for example, a residential dwelling fire. When you arrive on the scene, there may be dozens or hundreds of pieces of information to process and comprehend, but we can't do that. So you have to make the first most critical decision at that residential dwelling fire incident, and that is go or no go. Go inside or don't go inside. And what should drive that decision is data. And what I have it boiled down to is 4 pieces of information. Not 14, 24, 54, I don't even have an acronym for it. It's just 4 data points. First, the smoke and fire condition. And you might wonder, is smoke and fire 1 data point or 2? It's actually 1 data point. Because smoke and fire go together, our brain can do something called chunking, which means to put like information together and remember it as one. So what is the smoke and fire condition? Both smoke and fire have elements that determine what is happening. And those 4 elements of smoke and fire are color, volume, velocity, density. Those are the characteristics of smoke and fire. What is the volume of it? How total, in total volume. The velocity, how fast is it moving? The color, black, white, brown. And the density, the thickness of the smoke or the thickness of fire. Paying attention to those 4 characteristics allow us to understand the element of how bad the actual fire condition is. Precursors, we will see the precursors potentially to flashover. The second element is building construction and how the building is decomposing under the stress of fire. So now we've tied number 1 and number 2 together. So you have the smoke and fire and the building construction, and how's the building weakening under the stress of smoke and fire. So we put the building construction, when we look at it, we say, what is it made out of? And how quickly is it decomposing under the stress of the fire condition. The third is the speed at which the incident is progressing or moving along. So basically what I talk about here in the long version are windows of opportunity. Our windows of opportunity to save savable lives, save savable property, and the faster the conditions are changing, the faster those windows of opportunity are closing. So what we want to do is to not do a snapshot, but a kind of what I'd call a long pause, to look at the incident and to really capture the speed at which the smoke is moving, the speed at which the flames are moving, and the speed at which the building is being decomposed or consumed by the smoke or fire. And the speed at which that's happening tells us how fast those windows of opportunity are closing for us. The fourth characteristic is the realistic assessment of savable lives. Well, how do we make a realistic assessment of potentially savable lives? What I would contend is we put together the first 3 elements. We stitch them together, and that gives us the answer to number 4. What is the smoke and fire condition? What is the building construction, and how is the building decomposing under the stress of fire? How fast are the windows of opportunity closing on civilian survivability and firefighter survivability? And with those first 3 data points, then we make the go or no-go decision on our efforts to save savable lives. Now remember that when we look at a structure for savable lives, we have to look at it holistically, not compartmentally. And there might be one room where there wouldn't be somebody survivable, but if that person, say, wasn't in that room, maybe they're out in the hallway and the door is closed behind them, then they may be a savable life. So we have to look at the whole picture and give consideration to each area where there could be the potential for a savable life. Number 4, set the strategy and tactics based on the quantity and quality of staffing. So what we're doing is not only sizing up the incident, but we're also sizing up our staffing. How many people do I have? What is the ability of those team members? Do I have somebody who is new? Do I have somebody who's out of shape? Not all members are created equal when it comes to knowledge, skills, abilities, fears, phobia, fitness, and stamina. Setting the strategy and tactics based on the resources we have means that we're not going to create a plan that is bigger than our abilities to mitigate that plan. Ideally, we'd have 20 or 25 people immediately at our access and be able to implement a strategy that puts all of them to work in a coordinated way to accomplish all the tasks. But that doesn't happen that way. If you're first in, you've got whatever crew you have with you, 2 or 3 or 4. And giving consideration to the quantity and the quality of that crew helps to drive the decisions of go or no go and what should we do tactically with the people that we have. Number 5, stay focused on the big picture incident. If you're an incident commander, command from a location remote enough that you can maintain a big picture view of the incident. And this is critical because as the incident commander goes hands-on and small picture, then they're not able to see the big picture and the big picture changes, like changes in smoke and fire condition, changes in building construction, the construction won't change, but how the building is decomposing, and changes in how fast the windows of opportunity are closing. The only way to effectively command an incident at the big picture level is to stay hands off and far enough back to be able to manage the incident. Now, if your department chooses to have the first in go mobile command or working command or hands-on command, that's the decision of your department. I'm not going to get mad at you if you choose to do that, but just know this, that if the first arriving establishes command and chooses to go hands-on, interior, belly down, through the heavy, thick black smoke, they cannot, at that same time, effectively command the big picture incident. And hopefully somebody will come in and be able to do that relatively quickly on the incident. And the longer that person is inside in the command position, and the conditions are changing, the more likely the windows are going to close and create a consequential outcome for that crew and or civilians. Number 6, if you're going to be in charge, as best you can, avoid performing hands-on firefighting duties at the same time. And this really just has to do with your brain's ability to capture, process, comprehend, and recall information. You might remember that I said about the short-term memory limit. So if you go hands-on, your short-term memory is thinking about the hands-on tasks that you are doing and may not be focused or comprehending big picture signs and clues and indicators of flashover and collapse, and therefore that information might be missed because the person in charge has chosen to be hands-on. Now, sometimes when you're short-staffed, and I understand this, you don't really have much choice but the person to be in charge to be hands-on. Just realize the limitations that if you're in charge and hands-on, there are going to be critical things that you may miss seeing or hearing because you are hands-on. Number 7, never miss communications from your at-risk companies. So if you're the commander and you cannot effectively listen to and comprehend what is happening on your radio, then your crew is in a jeopardized position. And we can't comprehend multiple radio communications at the same time. So if you're a commander and you have to monitor multiple radio channels, that's a setup for failure. Or if you're on a single radio and you're monitoring multiple channels or talk groups simultaneously, that is also a setup for failure. The brain can only take in, process, comprehend, and recall one audio element at a time, one piece of radio traffic at a time. And so what can happen is you can listen to a little bit of one conversation, a little bit of another, back to the first and back to the second. But what you end up with in your mind is a bunch of scattered jigsaw puzzle pieces from various stories about what is happening, and it becomes very easy for the brain to start shedding some of that information, which causes you then to forget some of that information or cause you to put together a convoluted puzzle that just doesn't fit or make sense to you. Control distractions and interruptions. So if you find yourself being distracted and interrupted, consider calling a personal timeout to step yourself out of the environment where the distraction and the interruptions are occurring and allow yourself to kind of recalibrate and get back into the mindset of being in charge without having the distractions and the interruptions present for you at a moment. It's just kind of like take a little mental break from what is happening to kind of do a reset. Also, if you're going to be in charge, try to avoid being a high-profile target. A high-profile target is the person who, stands out front with a radio, easily accessible to anyone who wants to come up and talk to them, and anyone will. The police will, the media will, the utility company will, every firefighter will, and being a high-profile target that is easily accessible then makes you vulnerable to more interruptions, which then can very adversely impact your situational awareness. Consider, as an organization, providing support to the commander, and this can include an additional person serving as a command advisor, or consider having a command team, or consider having a command aide, which may include somebody who listens to the radio for the commander, or somebody who scribes notes for the commander, or somebody who completes the commander's worksheet. I've long said that a fire incident where there are multiple companies working, Not a multi-alarm incident, just a single alarm incident with multiple companies working, say 2 engines, a ladder, and a medic, and you've got 15 or 20 people working. That, the capacity to manage all that exceeds the ability of one individual. Now, there are individuals out there who might have a hard time even accepting this from me and say, well, I've been doing that for years. You'd probably be surprised at how much you're missing and how much information overload you experience and how your brain sheds some of that information. And if you're honest with yourself, you'd say, when I go back and I listen to the tape, I hear things that I didn't hear on the incident, or I learned things that I didn't know on the incident because of your how thin you are spread as a incident commander. As a commander, consider using worksheets and checklists. The worksheet allows you to write down everything that has already happened at the incident scene, helping you to manage your retrospective memory, the memory of the past. You don't have to remember everything, you just have to remember where you wrote it down at, and the worksheet is a good place to do that. Consider using checklists. A checklist is a kind of a to-do list at an incident, and you should have different kinds of checklists for different kinds of incidents. A structure fire checklist, a high-rise checklist, wildland, EMS, probably mass casualty if you're going to have multiple companies working, wildland incident. And the checklist is simply a mental reminder of the priorities of managing that incident. Because even though you've got training, you think, well, I'll know the priorities. Under stress, some of those priorities can be lost or forgotten. And the checklist helps you to manage your prospective memory, your future memory of the things that you need to do, and it's just there as a reminder for you. Number 10, establish and maintain a strong command presence. As commanders, we must control our emotions, not eliminate our emotions, because emotions are essential to good decision making, and I've shared a lot about that, but to control our excitement and our frustration and our anger and our ego, and to maintain a sort of even-keeled persona to those working at the incident for their benefit and for our benefit. Control your people. Control the freelancing, control the independent action that might not be consistent with the commander's strategy, or even compatible with the various tactics. So making sure that the incident commander serves as the proverbial orchestra leader. You've got professionals out there in the orchestra, but they need somebody to lead and guide and coordinate the playing of the music. That's what the incident commander does, is controls the activities and controls what the crews are doing so that it is all being done in a coordinated way. Be clear and concise about your orders. This can be done with practice. This can be done on the drill ground. Orders oftentimes are best if they're short, sweet, to the point. 3 to 5 to 8 word instructions instead of long orations, because people will forget and it uses up a lot of airtime when you're trying to explain something chapter and verse. But to have crews so well trained and so used to the common radio terminology that there isn't confusion in the orders. Keep track of your people, know where they're at, and know what they're doing. This is the accountability part of being in charge, and that is the best way to do this is to write it down. Where are the crews? What are the crew size? What are they doing? What's their progress? How does that fit with other strategic things being done? How does it fit with the tactics that are being performed by others? Keeping track of where people are and what they're doing. Keep track of the passage of time. As you track the passage of time, as you perhaps would have dispatch give you 10-minute increments of time, 10 minutes has gone by, 20 minutes have gone by, 30 minutes have gone by. That helps the person in charge track the speed at which the windows of opportunity are closing. Under stress, it's very easy to experience something called time distortion, where time gets away from you, and 5 minutes can pass like 20 minutes, 20 minutes can pass like 5 minutes, and this is just not only a commander affliction, it can also impact those who are operating on the inside with limited air. So having them know how time is passing can be very helpful to helping them with air management and the planning the route of egress when it's time to get out. So keep track of the passage of time and the speed of the incident. Develop a meta-awareness. A meta-awareness is a big picture awareness of your situational awareness. So that sounds kind of weird, so let me explain it. Just kind of step outside yourself and look at yourself from the third person perspective and say to yourself, do I have good situational awareness? Have I been practicing the component parts of perception, understanding, and prediction? Am I giving clear and concise orders? Do I understand where everyone's at and what they're doing? And this sort of self-check, this meta-awareness, helps you to keep in mind that your own situational awareness is important, and you need to be mindful of it, not just because if it falls out of mind, then you just kind of lose track of the importance of having and maintaining strong situational awareness. Number 11, develop your own knowledge and expertise as a commander. Develop good habits and routines about how to command, how to communicate, how to use your worksheets and your checklists. Conduct training that's realistic and repetitive. As realistic as you can make it with an element for safety, but make the training evolutions realistic. Practice command and practice coordinating companies and crew activities. Create realistic incident simulations, and there's some software out there that can allow you to do that as well. And the simulations build up scripts, subconscious stores of knowledge of the things that you could and should do, but you actually learned what you could and should do in the simulated environment. And it works. When Captain Sullenberger landed his Airbus on the Hudson River, he gave a lot of credit to his use of simulation to build up a knowledge base of scripts of stored unconscious skills and abilities that allowed him to effectively execute that in a very compressed and very high stress environment and have the outcome be flawless. Finally, number 12, preload your experiences. Become a student of near misses, case studies, and line of duty death reports. Those experiences of others build a knowledge base in your mind. So you don't have to ever actually have your own line of duty death in your department or with you in charge, and I hope that you never do. But reading about and learning about those that others have experienced, their near misses, and case studies of incidents where things went bad, can build a knowledge base in your mind of what to do and what not to do when you would be in charge of a similar type incident. Your brain can hearken to the experiences that you developed by preloading experiences with near-miss, line-of-duty death reports and case studies. Consider having a mentor, somebody who's a highly experienced commander who can share with you how they have developed their competency, the things they learned, the mistakes that they've made, and give you their tips and ideas and best practices that they have developed. Consider conducting post-incident evaluations. After the incident is done, do a little tailboard talk or a hot wash or an after-incident review to learn the lessons about the things that happened, what went well, what could be improved. Incremental improvements over time is what the post-incident evaluation allows us to do, is to see those small errors in time to get them corrected so that they don't become habitual, and then you have a long series of small errors happen in a single incident that leads to a catastrophe. So let me sum up for you those 12 situational awareness best practices that we've covered. First, avoid premature decision making. Number 2, conduct a 360 size up. Number 3, prioritize incoming information. Number 4, set strategy and tactics based on the quantity and quality of your staffing. Number 5, stay focused on the big picture incident. Number 6, avoid hands-on activities. Number 7, never miss communications from your at-risk companies. Number 8, control distractions and interruptions. Number 9, provide support for the commander. Number 10, establish and maintain a strong command presence. Number 11, develop command knowledge and expertise. And number 12, preload your experiences. Since 2007, SA Matters instructors have helped more than 1,200 organizations and 87,000 individuals improve high-risk decision-making, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, highway workers, aviation workers, oil refinery operators, and more. If you or someone you care about works in a high-risk, high-consequence, decision-making environment, then we are here to help to improve their safety and survival and to help them accomplish the most important mission of all, and that is to go home to the ones who love them. Maybe, just maybe, we're returning to some of the normalcy in the midst of this pandemic. This past week, I was invited to deliver a situational awareness program for the Recruit Academy class at the Buckley, Washington Fire Department. And Buckley's fire chief, Alan Predmore, he's retiring after serving as their fire chief for 22 years. So I was also invited to facilitate a discussion on what to expect when you're expecting the new fire chief edition. This isn't my area of expertise, but I was hired in from the outside to be the new chief in 2 different departments, and quite frankly, was quite surprised both times by what transpired in the subsequent 6 to 12 months. Let's just say I learned a lot about human behavior in those 2 stints. And I also made my share of mistakes, not fully realizing the impact new leadership has on a membership. So, we had a nice discussion about their new chief and what to expect. Congratulations, Chief Alan Predmore, on completing your career and your long service to the Buckley community. If you're interested in knowing more about all of our events, past, virtual, postponed, or future, they're all listed on the SA Matters website. If you're interested in seeing a list of where we've been or where we're going, just head over to the site and click on the Program Dates tab under Training, or under Live Training tab. Program Dates under Live Training tab at the top of the homepage. If you're interested in hosting a program virtually or live when the social distancing restriction is over, just click the Contact Us tab on the top of the SA Matters homepage and I'll give you a call. Remember to check the show notes for how to subscribe to our newsletter, how to follow us on social media, where we share ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to improve the skills of critical thinking and resilient problem solving. Well, that's it. Episode 326 of the Situational Awareness Matters show is complete. Thank you to our amazing Platinum sponsor for 6 years now. 6 years they've been sponsoring us, Midwest Fire. Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you to our feature segment sponsor, the Gasway Virtual Training. Thank you to our associate sponsor, Chief Miller. And most importantly, thank you, the listeners and viewers of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters show with Dr. Richard Gasaway. If you're interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit his website, samatters.com. If you're interested in booking Dr. Gasaway for a program, or if you would like to be a guest on his show, click the Contact Us tab at the top of the homepage.